it is very awkward when I'm pulling pictures off of a woman's Instagram and my wife is walking by.
Put that beautiful sugary sand on the beaches. Those were little mini ecosystems that years ago the Division of Fish and Wildlife and the DEP identified as essential fish habitat.
When you buy this $500 combo, be prepared to leave it there until striped bass fall next December in South Jersey. Because you ain't going to use it unless you're going north.
If I know that there's a nice solid bite possibly waiting, like it's tough for me to sleep. Like I'm just kind of still like a kid in a candy store.
If you want my honest opinion, shut the season down. Period. I could even care less about us.
Okay, well that's a tantrum. Come on, come on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fat Dad Fishing Show live stream and podcast. My name is Rich Natoli. I'm the host of this show, and tonight I'm joined by regular co-host Ed Gobo from Captain Hank's Tackle. Ed, how you doing?
Well, I don't have a beard per se, so doing pretty good.
Yeah, so let's tell everyone why you don't have the big glorious beard that everybody loved last week.
I finally connected. I went out Saturday. I wasn't feeling too well. I actually left work early. I was feeling under the weather, so Sunday I was feeling better, so I got out and did a solo trip, and it worked out. I found it was 22 inches, I think, 21, 22 in that range. So
that's nice. That's a good reason to shave.
Yeah.
Now tell me, is your wife happy that you caught one, or is she saying liked it the way it was?
No, she's happy to see it go.
Yeah. We got to get you catching more fish, Ed.
And
Come
she
on,
enjoyed
man.
She enjoyed the fish tacos. So
yeah, there you go. I was out today. So as I had mentioned in previous shows, I'm doing a lot of scouting and not a ton of fishing. Today I did go out and I did a little bit of fishing on the way to the area that I was scouting. Had an awesome day on the water, even though the vast majority was not fishing. Ended up with 2 keepers in 4.5 feet of water. 4.5 feet of water. I think they weren't incredibly impressive, but one was 18.5, I think, and the other one was 17.75. So I've got dinner. It's because it was today. It's actually sitting in the cooler off to the right. I'm going to have to clean it tonight when we're done. But it was a good day and the scouting went well. It's for a video that will be out in a few months, hopefully, but that was my day. So we're going to jump into this fairly quickly. Before we do, I do want to go in and remind people we have a little bit of a giveaway contest going on, and it's not a contest. It's just a giveaway to a random person. And that is for people that do reviews of the podcast. And again, it's the rating, the 5-star rating and a review. We have 2 that came in a while ago. So we're still not caught up, putting them all on screen or on podcast. But first one was from Easy Chef. Informative, Rich and Ed share great information on our local saltwater fishing scene and cover a wide range of topics. If you go on a Facebook group looking for people to share anything helpful and grow tired of people telling you to just go find your own spots, gear, and techniques, these guys will answer any of the questions you have. I really like that one because that's what it's about. And that's one of the reasons that we're doing this is because God help you if you ask a question on Facebook. You're just going to get destroyed. Where'd you catch it? In the water. Thanks a lot, guys.
in the mouth.
Yeah. So we don't do that here. And then the other one was from JS10IS. Great fishing podcast, very informative, excellent content for flounder, striped bass, tog, and multiple species fishing in the Northeast. Thank you to both of you. You're entered in for one of the trucker caps. I don't have it here. I actually wore it today, and it's in the truck. But we have until the end of this week, essentially. It's actually through the end of August. So I'm going to extend it one day past when the podcast comes out on Thursday. So we have Thursday as well. So if you're hearing this on the podcast the day that it comes out, you can still do a review. And then we're going to do the drawing next week. So thank you, everybody. We've gotten a lot of reviews, a lot of ratings, and there are podcasts with a lot more downloads and viewers. We're still a new podcast, but we have more reviews and they're all at 5 stars. So thank you to every one of you. It is greatly, greatly appreciated. So
Yeah, I just saw. I was looking at it today. We're up to what 26 episodes already.
Is that we have that many?
I think so. Yeah.
Actually, yes. Yeah, I think it's 26. So this
Summer's been
one will
in-
be 27. And let's jump right in because this one is one that I'm really look, we have people that have names, you know, Jim Hutchinson is a big one that came on for the Fisherman magazine. And but the thing that we look for is people that just are passionate about fishing and just want to talk fishing. And we've got one on tonight that everybody has seen, I am sure. John Halkias, Captain John, welcome to the.
What's up, Rich? What's up, Ed?
Welcome.
This is
Hey,
great.
26 is my favorite number, incidentally. That's what I wore when I played sports. That's any email I have other than Jigging Jerks is got a 26 at the end. So I'm honored to be the 26th guest.
Yeah. So yeah, and you're a great guest to have on because this channel is one. So you have a YouTube channel, and we'll talk about that in a second. But I'm sure you've gotten your haters. The most common thing that I get sent to me is you're no John Skinner. And my answer is always, yeah, I know. I'm not trying to be John Skinner, but you actually know John Skinner. And you actually, I like to say, even though you'll argue this, you're the guy who puts him on the fish.
Yeah, he doesn't need my help to get on the fish, and that's not me blowing smoke up his butt. It's the truth, but yeah, for sure. And I kind of get the reverse haters, not the you're not John Skinner. I get lumped in with all the Skinner haters who drink the haterade. And you were talking about how the first review from Easy Chef about you guys are great. You don't, you answer questions, you don't avoid them. And you mentioned Facebook, and that's the social media and the amount, and I get it, right? Because we're on a podcast right now. You have Fat Dad Fishing on YouTube, I have Jigging Jerks. But the amount of internet cowboys on like some of those Facebook fishing pages, it just disgusts me, especially when people legitimately just want an answer and they're met with sarcasm. And you know what? I guarantee you half those people, if you met them at a bait and tackle store or on the street, they would never talk the way they talk on social media. And those are the haters I get. I have a lot of them.
Yeah, I've got a few. I actually got blown up for posting a picture of a sheep's head with a blurred background. It apparently wasn't blurred enough. I mean, it was blurred. There's only one option, maximum blur. And I got railed for a spot burn. I'm thinking the only reason that anyone would know that spot is if they're there fishing for sheep's head. Well, and they can somehow
Skinner gets insane hate. If you go on Stripers Online or some of these more surf devoted fishing forums for spot burning. Now, if you watch any of his surf videos, unless you fish that spot, there is zero. I live in the North Fork. I live in the waters he fishes. I have no friggin' clue where he's fishing. Right. I see a boulder and I see sand. That's the whole North Fork of Long Island. It's all boulders.
Someone might recognize that one. They might recognize that one rock.
Exactly. And you know what? The guy that recognizes that one rock fishes that one rock. So
exactly,
it's not spot burning if the person knows those types of fish are there,
Yeah. I got lit up in private messages from somebody, and he said, you can't be telling people about this. This is my spot that I've been fishing. I'm like, dude, I've been going to the beach in Stone Harbor since I was born. So I've been fishing it 49 years before that bridge was there. I was fishing the old bridge that is now the pier that you're upset about. And he ended up saying, okay, I get it. I'm like, you wouldn't know where that was unless you fished there. He's like, you're right. You're right.
You'll have to let me know after this because I have a feeling I know who that person is.
No, you'll have to let me know where that is, including a map and GPS coordinates.
I'll text you the coordinates.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for everyone who's not aware, Captain John Halkias, Jig and Jerks on YouTube. Now, I think almost everybody that watches our channel or listens to our podcast is familiar with Jig and Jerks. But the name of your charter, this is the one thing I wanted to make clear. The name of your charter company is not Jigging Jerks like everybody thinks. It's Just Fishing Long
it's
Island.
called Just Fishing.
Right.
Just Fishing Charters. I don't talk about the charter business much on my videos because I'm booked the whole year.
Right.
I'm booked almost all the next year. My Blackfish is booked forever. Because again, I do it part-time, so it's just weekends, and I take 3 weeks off from my 9-to-5 job, a week in August, a week in July, and a week in November. So all my Blackfish customers, because all we do is light tackle, tog jigging, 1 ounce or less. I don't even bring anything over an ounce on the boat with me. Every customer I have is a customer for life. They want that same date the next year. And then it's the same with Fluke for July, August, and a bunch of customers in June. So I start filling up for next year right around now. So right now I have a few dates left in September and May, and everything else is gone. That's why I don't advertise it. That's why people don't know the name, because I never say Just Fishing Charters. It's just not worth it. What am I going to do? Have people call me for me to tell them, well, sorry, I know I advertised it on my YouTube channel and I got excited about chartering me, but guess what? I have no availability.
Well, that's how I got on, because Billy Ackerman, who's in the chat right now, or who's watching right now, he's one of your every year guys. And we meaning Billy, booked over a year ago for us to go out in 10 days or so from now. So I'm looking forward to getting out there. And I gotta say, have you
fished up there before? Have you fished Montauk or Block Island?
I have not. I've always wanted to. And when I was younger, it used to be all offshore, a lot of shark fishing, and I wanted to do Montauk for the shark fishing. That's all changed. I don't do that anymore. Mainly because I don't have the boat to do it anymore. But I kind of stopped before that anyway, because there's so much pressure on sharks. So I stopped that. But I never have fished up there at all. So I'm looking forward to it. And I keep saying I'm going to get my double-digit fluke, knowing full well that despite what people think, you're not getting double-digit flukes very often up there. People think
we did have 4 trips in a row this year to Block Island with a double-digit, which blew my mind. And one of those 4 trips was a customer from South Jersey, Billy, so this year he did 3 trips. Every other year he did 1 trip. So his first year, they had a 13-pounder. His second year, they had a 12.75. His third year, they had an 11.5. And then his first 2 trips this year, we dropped a big fish, but biggest was probably 7. And then the third trip he had, last trip in like the last 2 hours, they got a 10 plus. So they kept the streak going. So they now had 4 straight years booking me with a double digit. But to your point, it's very much an outlier. That's right. And that's one of the things that YouTube creates, because clearly, and you know this, Rich, right? You edit videos, you're not going to show every trip. There's stinkers in there. It's fishing, not catching.
Yeah.
But when you show the good stuff, it builds that, oh, well, I saw 5 videos in the last 2 months and they were catching big fish each trip, and it doesn't always work out that way.
Right. I'm actually putting out a video, I hope this week, which is the tentative title is Terrible Day. This is a terrible day.
Mm-hmm.
And
I've done that too.
Yeah. I mean, I think keeps it, everybody realizing that just because you're out there doesn't mean, just because my videos show me catching really good fish doesn't mean that's what every day is, because it's not. Sometimes it's just a grind. And this one, I don't think I had a keeper the whole day. The cool part was I got to see 3 people that recognized the channel and listened to the podcast out on the water. That was the cool part. But the rest of the day, oh my God, it sucked. It was such a grind, just all short fluke the whole day.
Well, so, the first time Skinner ever fished with us, this is, 2017 with my little crew. It was John Sweeney, who was my boat partner at the time, our friend John Kiriaz's stock. First time we were going to fish with him, I had met him up in Rhode Island. He told me he was moving to Greenport. I was like, oh, I keep a boat in Greenport. Anyway, we're super excited. We've watched all his videos. We fish these waters. We know these waters. And it's right when the fluke really started deteriorating in our area. It was probably the first year that it was noticeably less than what we were used to in the early spring. and we grinded it out for like 8 hours, and we had like 3 fluke on the whole boat for 4 guys. And silly us, we're thinking every trip he goes on, he films. He had a camera going the whole day, and we were like, so when is this video coming out? We were so excited, and he goes, are you kidding? I'm burning this, deleting every clip off this SD card as soon as I get home. We were like, what? No.
Yeah, I've done that. I actually deleted an entire video card last night. I was like, there were some fish, but man, it was just not a day that I wanted to. It would have been the dumbest video, video ever.
I've saved every clip from every trip, even if they've been bad. I want them there for posterity. I don't know why. I guess it's like video hoarding, but I have. You'll see, I have 2 of these. This is a 4 terabyte external hard drive that lasted from January to July 30, and now I'm on July 31 to blank. I shoot in 4K, so they take up a lot of space.
Yep.
Every trip gets saved down. You never know.
I got rid of mine because I'm now on my 3rd one of those external for the year. I had to bump it up to a 9 terabyte because I went through the 2 4s already.
Wow.
I was like,
I didn't know they made them that big.
Oh, yeah, and it's not cheap. But the worst part is, how long it takes to move the files. It takes like 2.5 to 3 hours. Yeah. And it was last night, and I'm like, I just want to go to bed because I got to get up in 5 hours. I just delete. I was like, I'm out. I'm done.
Rich, you and I were talking about this on the phone the other day. That's what people don't understand is the time involved. So when I have a charter, so I had my week off in July, I got 8 charters in 9 days. So my routine was as soon as I got home, even before I jumped in the shower, I started transferring the clips and putting the batteries in the chargers, right? I go through 5 or 6 batteries on the GoPro. And you're doing that while you're showering, then eating, then I'm logging into my regular job just to see if I missed anything critical. And they're still downloading and or uploading or whatever you call it. And, then you got to get the other batteries going. It's people don't realize the work involved. And it's the silly work. It's not even the editing. It's just a lot of stuff around it. Even uploading the clips takes forever.
Yeah. I mean, just putting the video from today, I'm definitely going to keep that. And I have to clear off my hard drive before I can even fit it on there because I have 150 gigs just on one of the cards because I run 2 cameras. So I've got twice the video coming out of it, and which is stupid because I rarely use the second video, but I got to keep it all anyway.
I started dabbling with GoPros this year, and I give you guys credit, man, because it's hard. It is so hard.
Yeah, well, once you get it down, it's easier. But every once in a while, I come out and like, wow, I can't believe that the camera was tilted that far. And actually, it happens when I get a new hat. When I get a new hat, it sits differently, so it'll be shooting, straight down, or it'll be straight up, or something like that. And yeah. It's a pain in the neck, but
it's mess. I'm making sure it's recording the angle, the battery, swapping them out. No thanks.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So let's talk a little bit about. Let's start off with Fluke, right? Because that's I think what most people know because you don't have a lot of. I think TOG is probably your biggest target or your favorite target, but Fluke is the one that you show the most on your channel. How's your season going so far? What are you seeing up there in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing what I've been seeing for the last 4 or 5 years, which is the flounder. Can I say flounder to keep everybody happy since we're more South Jersey, Delaware?
We've got the mix.
Based.
Yeah,
flounder fishing is it's not what it was, and I've talked about this before. My good friend Justin Trolley has a live stream too like this, Next Trip Fishing, and I don't know if everybody agreed with me, but I think the logic they use to set these quotas is really flawed. The logic is you get allocated 660,000 pounds, whatever it was in New York last year. We didn't catch that much. We were 20% under. And the way New York State works, their logic is, well, they didn't catch it. That means we're going to tack it on to this year. So they reduced the size limit. Which the real problem is, and somebody who's fished Montauk, for example, for 20 years, somebody who's been fishing Peconic Bay for over 20 years, the fish aren't there like they were. And sure, it's still better than a lot of places, but it's declining. And, what those reasons are, I don't know. I have a strong gut feeling. A lot of it is, the draggers are finding them offshore now in the winter and killing the really big fish.
Yeah.
But the real answer is to reduce the quotas. And this is coming from a guy who makes money, trying to catch these fish. But I strongly feel that the real answer for New York, I don't agree with the slot thing they did in Jersey because that's just ridiculous, 17 to 18. But I think New York would have been better off with, an 18 to 22 inch slot. And that lets those big girls, right? I think it's been documented and proven by marine biologists that fluke over or flounder over 19 inches tend to be female.
Right.
The vast majority of them are. Let the big breeders go. And my most proud moment, those 4 double digits we got in a row in the last couple of weeks, it's not we caught them, it's that all 4 were released.
Yeah.
And you really need to let those big ones go. But that's my opinion. I know it's not necessarily the popular opinion. And again, I make money off this stuff. So I'm shooting myself in the foot in a way for saying it. But,
I don't think you are.
With cameras now, with cell phone, everybody has a cell phone camera. If you come on my boat, you get a video. And believe me, if we catch a double-digit fluke, you're going to see a video of that trip. I don't care if it's the only fish we caught. That's my opinion. Rich.
Now, let me ask, are you seeing like a reduction of quantity or quality?
Both.
Okay.
Both. Peconic Bay, so you guys know. And I know most of the folks that are watching this are not from my area, which is Eastern Long Island, on the north side of Long Island.
We do actually have a lot. New York City is actually the second biggest, the third biggest area that listens to the podcast, at least. And believe it or not, Seattle is number 2.
Oh, interesting.
Philadelphia, Seattle, and New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, my area, Peconic Bay, was the place to be. Boats would come from Montauk in late April when the season would. I remember the season opening in like April 17, April something, some years, and then it went to May 1. But it was loaded with fluke. You could almost not catch a limit. And this is before the braided lines and the advance of the graphite light rods and the gulp and all that. It was just impossible not to get quality fluke. Now, if you get 2 or 3, you're having a banner day. And Montauk, it was a no-brainer in 2010, 13, 15. If we went to Montauk, you really were just concerned about the weather. Can we get there? Is it going to be windy? Because you knew once you got there, you were going to catch a lot of fish, and you would get quality 5 to 7 pounders, and you hoped for that bigger fish.
Right.
It's not like that now. Now, certainly we have good days, but there's a lot smaller fish than I've ever seen, and there's a lot less quantity than I've ever seen.
Well, I will say I'd like to get a double digit, but I'm not keeping it if I do. I probably won't keep anything that's over 8 pounds. I might keep one that's, I don't know. I don't typically look at weight, to be honest.
Rich, you realize how you sound, right? Well, if it's over 8 pounds when I catch one, I'm just I'm gonna let it go. I am the benevolent one. It's not that easy to catch an 8-pound fish. Just so we're all on the same page.
I'm trying to go by.
You're expecting an 8-pounder.
I'm trying to go by length. Like I would probably keep, and I'm thinking New York limits. Like you can keep 3 at that size, 4 at that size. So for my New Jersey mindset, you get 1 over 18.
I know.
So I would, and what I'm saying is I would probably keep 1 that's larger, but the rest are going back. I definitely would not keep a double digit. I would like to get a good picture of it, but I'm not. I don't know. But then again, I don't catch a lot of 8-pounders. I'm fishing backwaters.
What's your PB?
I think it's 27, 28 inches. I don't know the weight.
That's a great fish.
Yeah.
That's close to 9 pounds, probably.
It might be.
8 to 9.
Yeah. So in my mind, when I'm saying I probably throw back an 8-pounder, I'm saying if it's 27 or over, I'm probably not going to keep it.
Just
I
incidentally,
don't
while
know.
we're talking about the fish stocks, a lot of my clients, they go up to Nantucket every year. And again, I've never fished Nantucket, but they've told me that this year was not as good as other years, what they're used to catching. So if it's your first time going this year, it might be great. But for the guys that have been going, what they're telling me is it's not as good. And they said for the first time ever, they saw draggers out there from like Alabama. And, you know, and this is one of those things where it's easy for us as recreational fishermen to condemn draggers, but they're supplying restaurants, they're creating jobs.
Mhm.
And why are we right and they're not right? And I'm not saying they're right. I'm just saying it's not as easy. We are the reaction we always have is ban it, but it's not that easy. You know, restaurants are dependent on it, seafood markets are dependent on it. There's thousands of jobs dependent on it. And I don't know what the answer is, but it's not going to be an easy problem to solve.
It's not. And I think there are a lot of other things that, you know, everybody always jumps to the commercial guys. And I do believe I have seen down off of Cape May the release of the bycatch of striped bass. And I'm telling you, I have pictures of where we pulled out of there netted, just floating right behind these things right before they come in Cape May Inlet, 30 plus. And I'm talking every one of them was over 35 inches.
Yeah.
And they're just floating there dead with all the net marks on their sides. But there's a lot more to it. We also have terrible back bay areas, and you know where they're going in the summers. We have like no oyster bars left in South Jersey at all. I mean, and when you find them, they're dead. They're just the old shells connected to the rocks, but there's no spat or anything in the area, so it's a dead oyster bar. We have no grass. Our flats in these sounds down in South Jersey have no grass, and the vegetation they have are just the seaweed, but no grass. You know, and part of that is the water quality. So I think it does go beyond that. I'm not saying that they don't have a part in it, but they're not the only thing. The fact that we let
You're right. The big theory for a long time in my local area was the decline in Peconic Bay coincided with the West Nile, and everybody was spraying, and all of a sudden the fluke disappeared. I don't think any of us will ever know. What you mentioned though about the dead striped bass, that's the other controversial thing that I don't think people think about logically, right? The one big argument you'll see on like the fluke pages on social media, screw the commercial guys. Why should they get 14 inches and we have to go, 19, 18, whatever it is? But you got to think about it. Their bycatch is their bycatch. If we make their catch 19 inches, what happens when they catch those 14-inch fish? They're going to kill them. They're going to be dead. They're going to get thrown overboard. They're not going to count towards their quota. This way, at least those smaller fish, for better or worse, they're going to die anyway. Might as well count towards their quota so they finish faster and they're not killing more fish.
Right. Yeah. Meanwhile, you get the reports that go through social media every now and then. This guy caught with 27 undersized striped bass caught in Raritan Bay. You know, this one with 54 sea bass caught in here. You know, it's
well, and I talked about this before. There was an arrest in Montauk over the winter of a commercial fisherman that had 200,000 pounds of fluke that he didn't report and never counted towards his quota. Which that's one guy, and that was almost 1/3 of the recreational quota for the whole year for New York.
Was that what was his name? The Codfather? Was it that guy?
I don't think it was that.
Oh yeah, that guy with all the boats.
Yeah, they made him sell his fleet.
They were in cahoots with one of the seafood places in Montauk. I forgot the name now. I have a video on it actually, but I get what you're saying, Rich. And again, I understand people have to make a living, and there's a lot of jobs dependent on it, and the restaurant industry. But is the answer maybe more enforcement, which is another topic nobody wants to talk about? But we can't have our cake and eat it too. You can't sit there and say these guys are getting away with murder and then complain if a DC officer checks you to make sure you're not breaking the law.
Yeah,
we see that in New Jersey. You see it in New Jersey a lot. You know, there's the argument: should we have a saltwater fishing license? Everyone says no. This is a free country. You're 100% correct. I don't want one. On the flip side, why do you think Florida has all those nice boat ramps and all those enforcement officers all over the place? Texas, it's because they're paying, and 100% of that goes back into those things. So maybe you give something to get something. I'm not saying either way, but we refuse to do things too. I think I don't know. It's a problem with everybody. The pesticides, the dirty waters, the dead oyster bars, the dead grass. There's so many things that we could do, and we're just not doing enough.
Yeah. So Peconic Bay also had a really thriving scallop population. That's probably what they were known for. Every fall, there'd be scallop festivals here. The Bay scallops. Third year in a row where the mortality rate is almost 100%.
Yeah.
So back to the pesticides. I mean, what else is killing these scallops in the waters they grew in for thousands of years? And now 3 years in a row, you can't. There's none to be found. There's a scallops organization that did a sample and 100% mortality rate.
Yeah. Well, and that's all it comes down to. And Andrew Sokol's saying in the chat, Rich, this is New Jersey. The politicians will funnel the money elsewhere. Yep, they will.
New York
you got to vote out. You got to vote out those politicians. You got to vote in the people that won't. And easier said than done. It's a problem that we can't solve on this stream, but it is a problem, and everybody's a part of the problem. You know, the meat hunters that are out there just filling the box and, you know, laying all the 150 fish on the deck every day. That's a problem. It's legal, and I don't, you know, they're allowed to do it. I'm not going to say that they're not, but it's not helping. It's not helping at all. So we all have a part. Yeah,
definitely cringy, and takes my respect for you down big time. Like, excuse me, a friend of mine posted a video of like a ton of sheep's head in a cooler, and I'm like, nah, that's not cool.
Yeah. I don't even know what to say. It's look, for full disclosure, back in the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, it was literally, you would go out on your boat. We had a 24-foot Grady White, and we'd bring a trash can, and the trash can had ice on the bottom, and you just we get so many fish, you couldn't use the coolers on the boat. You had to use the trash can. And we just, and the coolers were just filled with ice. So you'd throw in, 30 bluefish and then throw the ice on top. And then you'd have room in the coolers for the other 30 fish that you got. So I can't say that I wasn't a part of it, because I was. Our freezer, we literally had 2 freezers full of fish. We were giving it away to every neighbor that we could find that wanted fish. So I'm not going to say I wasn't a part of it. I 100% was.
Right. But Rich, pregnant moms would drink wine and smoke too. I mean, the times have evolved. Doesn't mean what we didn't know or understand 40 years ago should still be happening today.
Right. I agree. And I've changed what I do. I will keep fish. I will throw back a lot. I throw back the vast majority of fish that I catch, even fluke. I throw back keepers every day. I don't always come home with a limit, even though I caught a limit. Things like sheep's head, they don't have a bag limit in New Jersey, so that's why Ed is mentioning those, because there is no bag limit, but it's now just an exploding fishery. So there's concern over all these double-digit fish being harvested when nobody knows how many are there. So it's just not researched yet. The Fishery Council hasn't deemed it necessary or worth their time at this point.
I don't really know what they do, but anyway.
No, I don't think anyone really knows what they do. But so let's talk a little bit about the fluke. I got a question for you. You got the Skinner Robo Arm Rapid Jigging. Is that what you do? Is that the best? Why is that the best way to fish for these?
I do that with the casting rods, with the conventional setups. I do feel you catch more fish that way. But I also have a theory that you catch smaller fish that way, but more
Yes.
keepers.
Yep.
So Skinner had a double digit on my boat last Sunday, not yesterday, the Sunday before. And for as many fish as he's caught and as much as he's fluke fished, I believe that was his third double digit in the last 7-8 years on a boat. Where our friend Doc, who catches, great fisherman, but he catches less keepers than Skinner, he's had 7 or 8.
Yeah, he's the one that always catches the big fish, though, right? Like he's not on the video, and then all of a sudden he's on the video pulling in a doormat.
Yeah. And I wouldn't be shocked if those, and you know from the fight, right? When you bring up a big fish, they tend to fight less. Like a 19-inch fluke will hit like you think you got a 20-pounder on when it hits. It's just a woof. And when you're reeling up, they do those really crazy head shakes where a lot of times the bigger ones, you don't even know you have a fluke on. You're like, what did I foul hook a skate or what am I bringing up? And if you think about that really fast vertical jigging and their big lazy fluke, maybe that slower presentation is what they want.
Right.
Again, this is just a theory. Obviously, I have no idea. But I can tell you, I mean, we had a trip earlier this year where my good friend Todd Mann, who's a really good fisherman, Long Island Lethals, his wife was on the trip, and James Milano, who some of you may know because he posts on Facebook a lot about the Montauk Star, but he's a trophy hunter. He catches big fish everywhere, tog, fluke. Todd had, I think, 4 keepers. James Milano had 7. Skinner had 14. And it is rare that we fished with him now 100 times, right, in the last 6 years or so. It is exceedingly rare. You could probably count it on one hand the amount of times we catch more keepers than him. I believe today they were out. It was himself, Rick, and 2 other guys. They had 16 fish, boat limit. Skinner had 9. And he's when I tell you he does it, like you watch him, he is really, 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 really putting a lot of action in short spurts on that jig.
Yeah.
But I think the other thing that most people don't realize, or I don't know what you guys think about this, but a lot of times the hits are so subtle that I think guys who do that rapid jigging, they might not detect that change in cadence because that's all it is. It is like you'll see him and then he just stops, reels, and sets.
Right.
And it's a slight change in cadence. That's all it is.
Yeah, because it just slows the rise. It slows the rise of that on that jig, or it doesn't come back straight. It's just a little tiny bit of weight. Because usually, I mean, we've all seen it on the Skinner videos and a ton of now everybody's doing underwater video. They'll come up and grab it and just kind of glide with it. They don't settle immediately back down. And it's that glide when you try to jig and it just kind of lifts them a little bit. That's where you slam it.
Yeah.
Easy to miss on a rapid jig.
Absolutely.
Definitely easy. I don't do a lot of rapid jigging. He
realizes that sometimes. I've had this conversation with him where like we were fishing a rip one day this year with customers. It was a package he was on. And it wasn't one of our regular rips. It was a more westerly rip where it's very shallow. There's spots where it's 5 feet. And he's instructing the customers on what to do. And he goes, okay, you cast parallel to the rip. Once that jig is about to hit the ground, you twerk it up. Just keep it a foot or 2 off the bottom. And I'm like, Skinner, I can't do that. How would anybody understand? And it comes so naturally to him that he doesn't realize that not everyone has that intuitive feel that he does. For that type of thing.
Does he jig like that all day? Like, is that his all
day?
So we have a joke on this channel about the Skinner forearms and how they must be just like Popeye forearms because it's exhausting. I can't do it all day because my hand goes numb from the weight of it and the reel seat hitting the inside of my fingers. My fingers will go numb the way that I hold the rod.
Yeah, I guess I've gotten used to it. It doesn't. It probably bothered me. Well, and I jig. I'm one of the few people that reels righty, whether it's spinning or conventional. And my preference is to jig lefty And I think when I do get tired, it's very easy for me to just switch to righty and then switch back and forth.
Yeah, I'm going to jig right-handed because I reel left. But I will say this though, I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and it's making my hand go numb, or it's the fact that I have a different presentation with my arm and elbow in a kayak because I have to hold it differently. You know, I can't dip it down; it has to be parallel or higher. Otherwise, things in the water.
I took it under my arm, and you know, it's not. There's not a lot of motion. It's not. To me, it's not that tiring, but I guess on a kayak it is different because you're kind of,
you got the shorter butt. You can't tuck it under your arm because then it'll get stuck in the seat, in the seat back. But we'll find out if the weather's good. We'll find out in a couple of weeks if I can do it. I don't think I can, but I'm gonna give it a go. Got it. You know, if I'm gonna be on the boat, I may as well fish like you guys. I mean, that's why you go, right?
I'll send you with my Nexus. Give that one a try.
The Nexus.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have Nexus rods and Skinner. I'll have a Skinner rod, and I'm sure he's bringing a Skinner rod or two too. So
I may need to borrow one. I don't know if I have one.
We'll have
for my tog setup.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I got my
rod. It'll be fine.
I got my tog set up, which can do 8 ounces, but I don't even know if that's the right thing to use because everything I do is inshore, so I'm typically up to 2 ounces. So this is going to be a whole different thing for me. You know, I used to do it, but the rods that I have that could do it are 35, 40 years old, and I'm just not willing to risk them. I don't know how good they are anymore. You know, they'll probably blow up on the first fish. So
probably fiberglass rods, right?
A lot of fiberglass. Yeah, there were ones that my grandfather made back in the 90s.
Don't bring them. We have plenty of stuff.
Yeah. No, I'm not going to bring those. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. But let's talk a little bit about tog. That's the second most popular fish on this channel. A lot of people, I think, don't realize that you're a big light tackle tog fisherman. And I think a lot of the people in this chat are also light tackle tog fishermen. They're not all just heading way offshore to the 100-foot depths. They're closer inshore or backwater. So why don't you talk a little bit about that? And is it actually your favorite?
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite, but that's selfishly speaking because I think I enjoy both equally, but I enjoy the togging experience more. And it's going to sound crazy, but I'll try and explain what I mean. For us, we have to run far for fluke, right? I'm running 35 miles to the south side of Montauk or 50 miles to block. Right. And we're in ocean swells. Saturday was a beautiful day here, and we were in 4 to 6 footers all day. And it's miserable. You know, you get home and you have land sickness. I never get seasick, but when I'm in a 32-foot center console with a 25-degree dead rise that's doing this all day, and then you jump in the shower and all of a sudden you feel your feet tingling and you feel like the room is moving. It's like the reverse seasickness.
Yep.
I'm running 9 miles or 15 miles to the 2 primary spots we fish. It's generally more protected waters. We certainly don't have ocean swells. We drop the trolling motor. We anchor on our piece with the trolling motor. We're using 1 ounce or less. And it's just so much more relaxing. It's what fluke used to be for me because we always fluked the bay, right, for months. We fluked Peconic Bay, then Gardner's Bay. We didn't think about the ocean until August. And that fishery is gone now. So now we're going to the ocean earlier and earlier. So while I enjoy fishing both fish equally, the experience to me is better with tog. And it's a lot of fun on the really light tackle we use. You know, again, we're very often tucking up right onto a lighthouse where no other boat can really, unless they have a trolling motor, anchor up a few feet away from it, using a 1/2 ounce jig in 11 feet of water and picking up 5 to 8 pound tog consistently.
Wow. I mean, that to me, that's the awesome part. So we had a guy that was on here. You may have heard the story. So he was fishing out of Black Hall Outfitters, which is right up in Connecticut. And so he's fishing Long Island Sound in a kayak. And his YouTube and Instagram is Sunrise Kayak Fishing. This dude pulled in a 23+ pound tog in his kayak in 14 feet of water.
Wow. I don't know that story.
You look it up, Sunrise
yeah, that
Kayak
thing's-
Fishing. And not only is it a cool looking fish, it is a great story. He was on the live stream with us one time, and a great guy, just a guy with a passion for fishing. But he went out that day to get his PB. He went out and he said, "I'm going to get my personal best," and he got it. He
Got
got an
everyone's
8-pounder.
personal best except for the world record holder.
Exactly. So he got his personal best was an 8-pounder. He was all excited, and he just moved to another piece, and he was trying to duck out of the wind, and he's like, "Well, I know there's a spot over here. I'll just give it a go." And he hooked that thing. Imagine being in a kayak by yourself trying to net a 23-pound tog.
That's incredible.
Yeah, he did it though. And the best part, you'll appreciate this, he let it go. Got his
That's
pictures.
awesome.
Yeah, he released it, which had to have been
That's
very
awesome.
difficult.
Look, again, people are paying you a lot of money to come on your boat, and it's ultimately their decision. But I encourage every customer that catches a big fish, let it go. It's up to you, but consider letting it go. And again, last year we were really lucky. I think we had 3 tog over 10, and all 3 got released. Or maybe 4 tog over 10, but all of them got released, which was awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome. I find that the older I get, the more I appreciate letting the fish go. And I was determined I was going to release a lot more fish this year, and I have, and I wanted to kind of do something more. So I was like, I'm going to start tagging too. Once it's like the drone. We were talking before this came on. We both have drones, and we never use them when we're on the water because we're just too busy doing other stuff. I have forgotten every single trip until I get back in the truck to tag a damn fish.
Yeah.
So it would be nice. It would be nice to say, hey, I tagged a 22-incher that I let go. Or
Rich, you raised an interesting question, or you made an interesting comment before. And it's something I was just telling my friend Doc, I want to do a video on this. I would still go fishing for tog, for fluke, for everything if they mandated, okay, we're going to shut the fishery down for 2 years, but you could still catch and release. And I totally get that some people are in it for the meat.
Yeah.
But I would have no issue burning all that gas going where I go, because to me, it's the enjoyment of the fight, the hunt, the chase, finding them, the presentation, hooking it, bringing it in, netting it, getting it on the boat, picture release. I would still do it as much as I do it now.
I would as well.
Agreed.
I think, Ed, you and I were talking about this. I think when we were talking about fluke, I mean, there was a big controversy this year with the New Jersey regs in that really narrow, ridiculous slot. Which, by the way, out of the options they had, it was the best option if it was going to be a slot, but it's still ridiculous, a 1-inch slot. But anyway, we were talking about it, and I said, if they were to close it, I'd be fine with it, but you'd probably have to leave it open. Like, say, anyone 65 or older can keep it because they're going to be the ones that are going to be yelling the most, because they're the ones who've always been able to harvest. And give them the little senior discount is my thought. But I honestly, I go out to fish. I don't go out to harvest. I like having a nice flounder dinner, but I don't, if I don't bring something back, I really don't care.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And everybody is complaining about these regs. Are they the best? No, but it's different. It's a challenge. It's not just going out and catching all the biggest fish you can. You actually have to work to get in that slot. So it kind of adds like another dimension to it. At least
I'll be honest though. I'm not out looking for slots. I'm still targeting the larger fish and happy to throw them back. I have a couple of release over 20 submissions just because I already have my one at 18. So if you pull in a 20, 22, 23, it's like, well, I can't keep it anyway, so I may as well put it into the release over 20, put a submission in. So I did I think 3 of them this month because I totally forgot to do that as well. But yeah, So tog is where it's at. And are you using the jigs, right?
Yeah, we were chatting about this with Ed. Yeah, I'm affiliated. I'm on their guide program with SNS, so I use their jigs. I've had great luck with them. I think more critical than the jig, and I'm not discounting what the jig makers do because it's great. I mean, a lot of the products I've seen are great, but really with that type of tog fishing, the biggest mistake you can make is to pick the wrong rod. You really need, it's the opposite of the fast vertical fluke jigging. You need a really, really, really soft tip rod. You want to feel the difference between the Bergals and small blackfish and porgies and baby sea bass and that thump or that one that slowly pulls your line away. And what I found, and I've had customers, I've on my channel a video from last year where I had one customer who almost limited a 4-man charter in 40 minutes by himself. The boat limited in under an hour, but he had a really good tog fisherman named George. He had something like 8 or 10 fish in the first 40 minutes, all great, healthy fish. And 2 of the guys were using Night Ranger jigging rods, which are fantastic fluke rods. But anybody who's used the Night Ranger knows they're really light. But they are meant for jigging, for bouncing. And it's a little counterintuitive when we talk about jigging for tog, because we're not really jigging. We're not.
Right.
You want to feel the difference. And when that rod tip is too stiff, that very subtle different pull is indiscernible from those little taps. They all feel the same. And you will either set too early, set too late, or not be able to tell, what are these guys talking about that they can tell? You really need the right rod for that.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I had mentioned earlier, I got a tog rod, but I don't think it's going to work because it's got the really soft tip. I'm not going to be able to do
you could slow jig.
The right way.
We just talked about the fact that the guys would catch the big fluke are slow jigging. You could just do your
yeah, but I also don't do that. I'm not. Yeah, so I would do slow pitch, but that's not what I'm doing when I'm out on your boat. I'm not slow pitching out there.
Okay.
Are you kidding? I'm watching, and I don't know. You're going to be running around being captain and mate. I hope that you're going to drop a rod in there because I gotta try to get as much knowledge off of you and John as possible before I leave that boat.
Almost every trip I fish a little bit.
There you go.
Some trip more than others if it's a slow day, but there's been trips this year where I've not dropped a line in because the action's been insane.
Yeah.
So hopefully you don't see me drop a line, and you're in good hands with Skinner next to you.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, I'll just say we all know how to net our own fish. I'm terrible at netting in a kayak, but I'm good at netting in a boat.
Now you jinxed yourself.
So I had I got eviscerated in my comments, which doesn't normally happen. A few trips ago, I had a group from Delaware, great people. And one guy had a 10-pounder right at the water, and he had the fish up on the surface way too far out for me to net. And he kind of just froze there. And I grabbed his rod and I drove the fish towards the net, and the fish spit the hook as it hit the front of the net and went away. And I thought people were going to you had to do that. The fish was going to spit the hook anyway. You didn't do that. But no, the comments were pretty clear. You never touch another person's rod. You caused it.
Yeah, I saw that video. I saw those comments. I started laughing. I'm the one who's thinking, you're the captain. You better grab that rod because that fluke is going to shake it or it's going to back up on them. And which I don't know if people know this, a lot of people, but fluke will go backwards.
They do.
And when they do that and shake, it causes a big problem. So I don't know.
How many times do you bring a fluke in the boat and as soon as it starts shaking on the surface, it spits the hook?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yep. I quite often will reach into the net and there's no hook in its face anymore. The hooks are both buried in the net and the thing is free. But I don't know. I thought it was hilarious because I was thinking, oh, he's getting it. Yeah. And I was thinking, but I think you should have grabbed that rod because the guy didn't know what he was doing or he panicked. The only shot it landed.
A lot of good constructive criticism. So my recent videos, now you hear me before the fish is anywhere near the surface. If it's a decent fish, okay, you know what to do. Don't get him out of the water. As soon as we start seeing him, I'm going to gently start bringing the net down. You drive that fish towards the net. I am happy to say I've not grabbed a rod since then. So they're worse. And look, if I had to do it over again, we would have had that fish because I would have coached the angler who had it and said, okay, start, when we see the fish, start driving him towards the net. Don't worry, just swing hard, bring him towards the net.
Yep.
So lesson learned for me.
Yeah, you got to get that sweep going when they're still down deep.
And by the way, Skinner's great at that. If you ever see like the force he puts into that sweep, it's almost like some people's hook sets.
Yeah. So I need to figure out how to do that in a kayak personally, because I have a lot of, that's like one of the things that people make fun of me for. And I make fun of myself because I am the worst ever at netting fish in a kayak. I mean,
it can't be easy.
I am horrible. Like I am ridiculously bad at it.
I pulled a rich yesterday on that fish, man. That thing jumped out of the net 4 times. I should not have got that fish in the boat.
John, I have probably pulled in if you take all of my fish, let's say I caught 1,000 fish and netted 1,000 fish, probably 200 of those were pulled in hanging from the teaser hook that's caught in the net and hanging below the net. So they're not even in the net. They're just hanging off of it, and I swing them into the boat that way. So, I mean, that's how bad I am. Right. I'm talking probably 20% of the time. I'm a disaster.
Well, and in the kayak, it's hard too because you're sitting like level to the water, so you have zero leverage. So you have the 4-foot net at the end of your arm, and it's like you can't flip the net up to get it into the boat like you can in a when you're standing over it in a regular boat.
Yeah, I get nervous about high sticking. Even on these, John, I get nervous about high sticking on a 14-inch fluke. It's it's a totally ridiculous thing that I do, but yeah, I should just do a video just showing how bad I am at netting and just own it out there for the world to make fun of it, because it's bad.
Oh, well, you need to get you a new net, because that net isn't helping you.
No, the net's terrible. It's like a $20.
Well, I fished off a kayak once. 3 years ago, maybe in Florida, Skinner invited me to his house. He said, "Oh, you've never been kayak fishing? We'll go together. I have 2 kayaks down here." He gave me the good one. He gave me the Hobie.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys do it. I don't know how you guys do it.
It takes some getting used to.
Were you in a well-traveled area, or were you off in like the mangroves?
No, Pine Island Sound. We saw one kayak about 7 hours into the trip. Nothing else. But it's not the boat traffic. How do I put this delicately?
You don't have to be delicate here.
My ass was killing me after about 2 hours. Like I thought, like I was thinking how do certain persuasions do what they do? Because my butt was hurting so much. I could not believe how much it was hurting. And of course, I'm not thinking when I'm on a boat, you got the T-top, you got all that. I wore shorts in Florida.
Yeah.
And my legs were so burned. They were so burned. And it still felt better than how my ass felt. And Skinner was telling me, well, that's the comfortable seat. You had the soft seat. I was on the sit on top one that doesn't have a cushion. It's like, how the heck do you guys do that?
So I actually love mine. So I was on the water 8 hours today. I didn't stand up once. I love the seat on my kayak, but there are so many people that are out there. They're shifting around. They have to stand up. Sometimes they pull over to a sod bank and get out and walk around, or a sandbar.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm good. I love the seat on mine, but there are issues. You're going to get burned on the top of your legs, the top of your feet, and
top of your hands.
The top of your hands, which is one of the reasons where I started wearing kayaking gloves, because I was getting it in between my fingers, were getting burnt, which is not fun. And I don't get burnt often at all, but I was getting it there definitely.
Now, was that kayak you were in, did it have like the molded in seat and a foam pad, or was it like a lawn chair?
The one I was in?
Yeah.
It's the Hobie Outback or whatever he had.
So it was like a lawn chair. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he said it was like the more comfortable chair.
Well,
But
now
it's
he
still-
has like the Old Town autopilot
Yeah,
and all those.
yeah.
Try those and see if you sit in one of those. Not that you need to go kayak fishing, but
Worse
that
or
might be a
better
little
or
bit.
what?
There, I think they're much more comfortable than the
Okay.
Hobie, than the Outback at least.
Yeah.
And part of it is also how high you're sitting. So the Hobie Outback, you're actually going to sit lower, and your feet are going to be higher in
you're gonna
relation
be,
to
like,
your
on an
hips.
incline.
So you're almost
Mm.
like sitting on the back of your ass instead of like flat, you know? So there are some
That makes
things like
sense.
that. But to your point, it's a whole different thing. Try going to the bathroom when you're out there on a kayak if you don't know what you're doing.
Oh yeah. Well,
That's-
by the way, we were talking about Skinner, right? And his focus and his intensity. So he's fished on 2 of my boats now since 2017. 100 times I've been on a boat with him. The man has never peed while he's been fishing, ever. Not once. I don't understand whether he's got a magic bladder, but that's part of his focus. He doesn't take a break to eat. He eats when we're resetting or changing spots.
really?
He doesn't take a drink break until we're resetting. And as soon as that boat is stopped, he's already, as I'm like settling the boat, reversing it to get it to stop shifting forward or reverse, whatever. He's already got the jig over the water ready to go down. I don't know anybody that maximizes his time in the water like he does. And I'm not exaggerating about that. He's never peed on the boat as many trips as I've been on with him.
So he's not drinking beer with you guys.
No, he's made that clear in a couple of videos. He'll have beer if we go to a bar or a restaurant or something, but never on the boat. Never.
I will never drink alcohol in the water. I actually, when I
Really?
had my boat, I wouldn't let, I had a rule that you could drink on the boat, but there had to be one person that knew how to handle it. Now I wasn't chartering or anything. There had to be one other person besides me that didn't drink anything, because if something happened to me, the last thing I wanted is my drunk idiot friends trying to get us back. So I always,
so I obviously don't drink when I'm chartering ever. That's the first thing they taught us in captain school. The first thing I think the instructor said was, I don't care what you guys do anytime else, or if you're on your friend's boat, but if you have customers on that boat, you are not to have a drop of alcohol in you. And I've taken that to heart. But when I go fishing, like I see Kristen, Philly Girl Fishing's on. She saw I had a few beers when I was fishing with her in Jersey last year, which, by the way, when you get used to that light style togging, man, fishing Jersey, and when you're using conventional setups, not so easy. Not so easy.
No.
But I enjoy a beer or two when I'm on the water. When I go on a party boat, I bring my number is usually 3. I bring 3 beers that I try to space out.
that's a good way to do it.
And I certainly have never been drunk while fishing or on the water, but I do enjoy a beer if I'm out fishing and I'm not chartering.
I think I've had too many near misses to be like, I'm overly concerned about, you're offshore and all of a sudden, I remember jumping in the cabin on our boat. It was a 24-foot Grady White. And we're tuna fishing, chunking, and we're not getting anything. So we're like 35, 40 miles offshore. And I was out with my dad and my grandfather. And my dad goes, dude, let's troll. And all the trolling gear is in the cabin. So I'm like, all right, I'll grab everything. And I open the door and I jump down into the well near where the little porta potty was. And I was up to my waist in water. And I'm like, hey, Dad. He's like, no, just get the rods real quick. We got to this. I said, Dad, look down here. And he looks down. And he's like, we're heading in.
Wow.
So we had a through hole fitting that broke and it was taking on water. And,
40 miles offshore.
Luckily the tuna bite was off because we noticed it before we went front heavy,
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone would have noticed because everyone was in the back, but I've had that, the freak thunderstorms that come up, and maybe I'm just overly concerned about it, but
No, I agree with you. I don't mess with any of that stuff when I'm in the boat.
now if it's somebody else's boat, I
So
might.
I'm the derelict here, I guess. Huh? I'm the degenerate in this group. Wow.
No, not at all.
If the 3 of us went and there were 2 people that could handle a boat, I would drink. Yeah, I think I would then, as long as there's other people that aren't. Yeah. I don't know. You've had bad stuff happen on a boat, John, right?
Yeah, I've been in
You
a
had
boat
to.
that sank. That's not even, that's number 3 on the list of scary experiences. My first boat sank in a really dangerous part of Eastern Long Island called Plum Gut. I have a video on that story.
Yeah.
Um,
Those are like rips, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But it was Father's Day weekend, daytime, a million boats. We got rescued right away. Scariest was probably fishing another area for Tog, Fisher's Island. That's like the spot 17 miles away where you got to go through a big series of rips called the Race. And those of you in Eastern Long Island will know what I'm talking about. And it was my 75-year-old uncle and I back in 2009. Weekday, only boat out there. I had that week off from work to Tog. We're doing well, and a freak squall came through. And we're like, all right, we're not paying attention. The forecast was supposed to be 5 to 10 all day. Wind's getting worse and worse, and the storm clouds show up. We're like, all right, let's get out of here. By the time we got the anchor up and started our 17-mile ride home in a 23-foot pilot house, the waves were over my bow. And we took 2 or 3 in a row where water rushed over the hardtop on a pilot house and filled the back. And somehow I turned that boat around and we tucked into Fisher's Island Harbor and waited it out. And my uncle was screaming the whole time, we're going to die, we're going to die. And close behind, and this is on video actually, me, Skinner, Doc, and Sweeney fishing Montauk in 2018, I think. And our fuel sender had died on our old boat, the Cobia. We had a Cobia 25. And we usually got 4 trips to Montauk. And this was our 4th trip. And we're on the south side. We're fishing. The wind starts picking up. We're not leaving. We're still fishing. We're the last boat left. And we had a southwest wind and an outgoing current meeting at Montauk Point. And we went through about a 5-mile stretch of 5 to 7 footers.
Yeah.
Where the bow was stuffing, following sea, mind you, which to me as a captain,
that's the scariest.
A head sea any day over a following sea. I know whatever that term is, fair winds and following seas.
Yeah.
Bull crap. Give me a head sea any day. I can handle that. Following sea where you can't control the bow, where you got to trim up and get the bow up and like
it's the scariest.
Scary shit trying to get around the point. And we did. We were soaked. We took a lot of water. And about 10 miles past that, we ran out of gas. And we used the trolling motor to go into a harbor and fuel up. But had we run out of gas at the point, I don't know.
You would have been done.
Happened.
Yeah, because you would have gone sideways.
Been a really bad story.
Yeah. Following seas are the worst, coming in an inlet. I mean, that's where you see, what is it, wavy boats and the all over inlet. It's always the
zips up
the
and
following
wavy.
sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're stuffing the bow.
They go through that. The following sea is the one that stuffs the bow. That's what people don't understand, that you go slow, you can trim your engine up a little, get the bow up as high as you can. And it don't matter if you've come off plane and you're barely going through them. You don't want that bow stuffing into that big wave in front of you, because you will be under like that.
Yeah, that's how you capsize kayaks like I did.
Oh, you did. I remember C Money did that once, trying to beach his on the ocean.
I think he took his really hard. I think that was. I'm guessing. I'm thinking that's one of the reasons he stopped doing videos for a long time, because one of the times that he capsized, he lost a lot. Like I think
the time he lost a lot.
Yeah, I think he lost like thousands of dollars worth of stuff. I lost one. I lost a few $100s, several $100s in the Raritan Bay, and I keep saying it's February. It had to have been March because I was striper fishing, and it was the following sea with the outgoing tide in my face, and it was a little baby pitch pole. It lifted the back, stuffed the front, which makes the boat turn, and there's nothing you can do to stop it. And when you're in a kayak, that means the front is stopping while the back is accelerating, and you just get dumped.
Yeah,
that was not fun. And in a boat, there's nothing scarier when you lose control and there's nothing you can do and you're turning as your nose is diving. That's just not good. Not
Like
good.
I said, that's the
Yep.
reason I prefer the tog fishing experience more, because we're
Yeah.
not typically in those types of seas. When I mean, maybe I should be afraid to admit this, but every time I go in the ocean, I'm scared. I mean,
That's good.
and it's just you have other people's lives on the line. And like Saturday, there was not a drop of wind, and my customers who were with me will confirm we were met with 4 to 6 footers tightly spaced for the entire 6-7 miles we went from the point to our fishing grounds.
Yeah.
And that's not fun. And then that was a head sea, so it wasn't that bad. I was going 27. The way home, though, that was all following sea, and it was me, it's like dealing with the fog, the mental exhaustion of focusing and the throttle and am I going the right way? Let me look over the book. It's just exhausting.
Yeah.
It's not physically exhausting. It's mentally exhausting.
We used to launch out of an inlet, Hereford Inlet in South Jersey.
Yeah,
and it
my
was
customers were talking about that inlet this weekend. They were saying, "Oh, Hartford is the 4th most dangerous inlet in the Northeast or in the country." I don't remember.
Yeah, it's technically not navigable. It is, but it always has been, and we've always used it. But the worst part about that inlet was, you had to keep your head on a swivel. You're coming in, you got the following sea, and you have to constantly look behind you to make sure a wave isn't going to break over the transom, but you can't go over the wave in front of you. So it was always that delicate balance, and the stress of that is just exhausting. I mean, you're done and you're just worn out.
That's what fog is like too. We've run 50 miles to block in that, and you're on the radar, you're on your GPS, you're still looking and you can't see anything. And again, it's just you feel like when you're done that that's it. I don't want to do anything else the rest of the day. It's like I'm spent.
I have a good story from for fog. So back in the pre-radar, I guess you could have radar, but back in the early 90s, it's incredibly expensive. You didn't even you'd have the Loran system, the old Loran numbers, and you'd had a fish finder that had a stylus, right? So those were our electronics with the Loran and
the paper,
no radar.
Right?
Yep, the paper. So we'd have to change out the rolls of paper. But we're out there. It was just me and my grandfather out on his boat, and we're out 20 some miles bluefish. We always went for bluefish. I think that was the Italian fishing for saltwater back in the day. It was just bluefish and more bluefish. And we're coming in and a thunderstorm hits. Now, the Loran didn't really work well back then. So it was using charts and compasses and all of that stuff. And my grandfather is like, "You drive, I'll tell you, where to turn, how much to turn." And we headed for the Cape May Inlet. And it was rain and we were socked in, even though it was pouring and there's lightning all over. And he says to me, "Where's the buoy? You should see the buoy." and I'm like, "I don't see a buoy." And all of a sudden we come up on this wave, and these were big waves. Now, luckily they were very spaced, so it wasn't like incredibly dangerous, but they were big. And we came up, and the size of these buoys. All of a sudden it's in the trough right in front of us.
Wow.
So we never saw it until we came up on the crest and about to come down in the trough. And talk about having to, he's screaming, "Turn, turn, turn." He's reaching over me. He's hitting the throttles. He's hammering the thing. I'm turning as hard as I can. So that was the problem, where the fog sucked. He was too good at navigating.
But that's impressive, though, that he got you back 20 miles, like literally right on top of the buoy.
Dude, he was like the smartest guy I've ever had the honor of knowing. He would, again, this was now even pre-Loran. You just had the charts and a compass. He would go out there and he would put somebody else on the pilot, and he would tell you what to do, and he would have a stopwatch, and he would say, "Okay," and he'd start counting down from 60, and he's like, it's gonna shift to 65 feet, and we're gonna be right here. And wouldn't you know, within 10 seconds, either side of 60, you would hit that drop off. and it would drop from 30 to 60 feet. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. But yeah, I couldn't do it.
I know that the day you lose respect for the ocean is the day something bad happens.
Yeah. Well, I also have the issue. I watch all those Coast Guard shows. So I see are bad things happening left and right. Those guys are amazing though. That's why I watch it. Coast Guard. I don't know what we do without them.
And a couple of years ago, we made a bonehead move. We took an 18-foot a Maycraft, open center console. We took it off 15 miles out. First trip out in the ocean, no VHF, no nothing. We're fishing. It was flat calm. There's boats all around us. All of a sudden, the boats were gone. There's a dark cloud coming in. We're like, oh, we might want to go. So we start heading in. Thunder and lightning. 20 yards from the boat. I've never experienced anything like it.
Yeah, you get that smell, the smell of the lightning near you.
It was wild.
Yeah,
just the shriek of the electricity coming through the air and the sparks coming off the water. It was like unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, John, I know you can't control the weather. Hopefully we don't have any of that. Although those hurricanes are looking a little concerning for our trip. maybe we won't be getting out this year. Maybe it'll be next year.
Well, we'll see. Listen, there are times where the prediction is the weather's going to be bad, and then a couple of days before it turns out to be the best day of the week, and vice versa. So let's not give up hope yet. Now, I started reading some of the comments. Unfortunately, I can't comment, but yes, that was the Maycraft. Diesel Dick, that is amazing that you're in Pine and you spotted him at Publix. Hello, Kristen. I don't know. There's still a lot of questions here, but yeah.
There. Most of it is people commenting on some of the things that you were saying throughout. I didn't see really many questions that you didn't answer as you were talking. A lot of times, because there's a slight delay, the question will come in, but you've already answered the question as you continue to talk. So I don't think that we really missed much of anything. But we are at an hour and 15 minutes, John. I told you I committed to an hour or less. So
no, this was fun.
A lot of times the conversation just runs. You kind of gotta.
And we didn't rehearse a single thing. We really did.
No, this is all about, finding interesting people that are passionate about fishing and just talking fishing. That's what everybody.
I can't wait for the 10th. Fingers crossed that we get out.
Yeah.
If I have to put up with Stan from SNS on that Friday, God help me if I go out with him on Friday and then our trip gets canceled because that storm or whatever doesn't push in here till Saturday. That'll be unfortunate.
Well, if the hurricanes have to come through, let's hope that they're going to hit on Monday or Tuesday, so we get that pressure drop on Saturday for us.
Right. And we don't want that pressure drop. My worst day fishing last year was the day before that hurricane came through.
Yeah.
Where not a single fish would bite, and I guarantee you they felt that pressure dropping, and Van Moest or just went into lockjaw mode.
Yeah, you got to get ahead of that day before. Otherwise, although I'll say this, the surf fishermen do a really good job day before or day of hurricane. I don't know why they do so well. Maybe they're just better fishermen than I am. But for some reason, the surf guys just nail them in the middle of these storms. But on the boat,
Skinner's always told me, and it might be different strokes for different fish. But Skinner always told me that he loved when there was a nor'easter or strong south wind, a storm, because the bait fish would get swept in, and that would actually cause the stripers, to go into a feeding frenzy. And they knew that if there was a strong south blow, the south side of Montauk is where you were surf fishing, and that bait would get washed ashore, and surf fishermen would have a field day on those types of days. I don't think it's the same for fluke and some of the species we target.
Right. I think the migrating fish and the pelagics definitely are going to be a little different. I do like fishing in the fall and the winter for striped bass on a nor'easter. I love fishing a nor'easter. It's incredibly cold. It's incredibly wet and draining, but I love it. I absolutely love fishing for striped bass in those, and you can typically get them.
I like even watching TV on days like that. Sit back.
Well,
Under
I'm getting
the
older.
warm fire at the home.
I had an experience where I fell in the water face forward because a wave took out my feet. I was only an ankle deep, and I couldn't get out.
Wow.
And I was
Because
like,
it was pulling you that strong, whatever the current was there.
yeah, it kept hitting me, but it was such a severe drop off where I was that when the sand, it was really the sand gave way under my feet, and I slipped forward. And the guy next to me comes running over. He's like, "Do you need help?" I'm like, "Yeah, help, please." He came over and helped, and then we both laughed about it after because I looked like an idiot. But yeah, that was not a good situation.
I see a good question before we hang up. David Cohen, what editing software do you guys use? Rich, you go first.
So I use Camtasia. I use Camtasia because I use a PC. I do not have an Apple or a Mac, so I use all PC stuff, Windows. And I also have put together, I wanted to be able to put together online courses as well with the same software. And it's actually made for courses. So I use Camtasia for all of that. And I don't think for audio, I actually use Camtasia as well. So this audio, when I edit it for the podcast, will get ripped out of here, uploaded in Camtasia. It has very rudimentary audio editing, but it works. Like I said, it's just three guys talking fishing. So
yeah, I use Wondershare Filmora. It's just because when I started the channel, I Googled easiest editing, video editing software, and that seemed to be high on a lot of people's lists. And I do find it easy, relatively intuitive. I was telling Rich this, technology and I are not simpatico. We don't typically get along, but it for me, it's relatively easy.
Yeah, and if for people that want to start off with editing, don't go like Camtasia is a couple $100. Don't do that. Just try something basic and easy until
A lot of them have free offers where they put their watermark. I know Wondershare does.
Yep.
They let you use it for free, but you deal with the watermark. And I saw a couple comments, John, get that Sea-Doo. Season's over. I did not want to get it for the fall. I wanted it for fluke stuff, and and it got delivered, but without a chip. And who knows if that chip comes in December, then it's going to just sit there being not used and being paid for 6 months. So, and honestly, I don't have time. It was very ambitious of me to think between a full-time job and the charters every weekend and vacations and the video editing, which takes hours, that I would even have time to use it. So I think I got a little too close to the sun on that one. It's probably better off that they didn't get it in by the promised date, which was May.
Well, if they get it in and you're going to be paying for it for 6 months, just ship it down my way. I'll use it until you want it again next year.
Yes, there will be that slight 10% markup over MSRP, considering how backlogged they are, Rich.
Yep.
So,
yep. Understood.
kidding.
Understood. All right. Well, guys, I think we're gonna wrap it up here. John, I'm just really grateful that you came on.
This was a lot of fun. Thank you for having me, Rich.
Thanks for.
Yeah, YouTube tells
Ed. Sorry, Ed. I keep saying Rich and not Ed.
It's cool. Rich is the ringleader of this. I just come and hang out.
on my YouTube channel, and John, you've seen this. It says, "What other channels do your viewers watch?" And Jig and Jerks is actually, it wasn't before. It is now actually the top other channel that people watch. That you're ahead of Skinner now.
Incredible.
Yeah, you're ahead of Skinner. So
thank you to everyone who watches. No update on the new boat, James. Still waiting to get a build date. Nothing yet.
I'm interested to see that. You're getting a catamaran, right?
Yeah. But you know what? The more I use the CD, the more I'm debating whether it's just my CV's an 05, but it has newer engines, and it's anyone who's been on it will confirm it's a beast. And is it just easier to, spend $200,000 on a new boat or spend $30,000 and gut the boat out, change the fuel tanks, which are original, no issues, but just preventative,
right?
And redo some of the fiberglass that's a little long in the tooth. I'm questioning now whether from a, fiscally responsible perspective, whether that's not the better way to go.
Yeah, I'll just throw this out. You could always continue that until you need a second boat in your fleet.
No. I'd have to hire a second person to do it. I don't know
Well,
if I could.
I'm not working, man. I'm not working right now.
You also live about 300 miles away from me.
That is true. That is very true. That is very true. Yeah, so it'll be interesting though if you do get it. I've never been on a catamaran. They look smooth, but if you do get it, I'd be interested to see how it works out for you.
Yeah. I've been on them. They're stable too, which is one. I was talking about the rocking. That's what I think I notice more, because my boat ride's great. I don't think there's going to be that big difference in ride. For me, it's going to be the stability in the ocean. If I was just fishing the Sound and the bays, I wouldn't even think about this. But
right,
at my age now, I'm 50 now. It's that rocking, which doesn't get me sick, but you feel it when you get back on land.
Yeah, well, I get the land sickness. Even in a kayak, I'll come back and I'll, like you said, you get in the shower and the steam starts going, and all of a sudden things are moving. You're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I didn't feel this the whole time. Didn't feel it in the truck for the 2-hour drive home.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm feeling it now. Yeah.
It's always in the shower that I feel it. I don't understand.
Yeah. I blame the steam.
The steam.
I blame everything on that. So John, thank you very much for coming on. I really appreciate it. Everyone in the chat, Billy, Diesel, James, Participation Trophy, B&D Jigging Adventures, like them, Crabbing and Fishing, Philly Girl Fishing, David Cohn. I'm going to be missing some, and I apologize, people. Billy, Kevin O'Shea, one of my new best friends. All of you guys, thank you so much. Heaven and L, Andrew Sokol, for coming in. We're going to be back next week. We're still working on the guest. We've got some very busy captains trying to work it into your schedules. John, thank you for making time for us.
Yeah, thanks.
This will be out on the podcast on Thursday, and I'm looking forward to getting up there and learning some things from you.
Maybe
and John.
We could do this again after we fish together. We could do a recap of our fishing adventures.
Yeah, I would love that. And like I said, New York area is actually a very big area. There are a lot of people in the New York area that fish Long Island Sound and the North Fork that do watch my channel and do listen to the podcast. So I think they'd be interested. Connecticut as well is another big one. So I would love to do that. Absolutely.
Let's do it then.
All right, we'll set it up. Guys, thanks again for stopping in. And
thank you guys.
Yeah, and it's going to be a great week out on the water in New Jersey. The weather's looking good, so I'm going to be getting out there a couple more times this week. Ed's getting out there Wednesday. I think I'm going to join up with him, and then going to head out on the boat on Thursday. So everybody get out there, get on the water, and get some tight lines.